Hello everyone, I'm Professor S.R. Patil, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, BLDEACET, Vijaypura. So in this lecture, we'll give a brief overview of the cloud computing infrastructure at Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. So these cloud service providers support one or more of the three cloud computing delivery models which we have discussed in the previous class. So three delivery models are that is platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, software as a service. So here we'll see the content. So this is a content which I'm going to cover in the today's lecture in this session. So the first one is existing cloud infrastructure. We'll see what are the existing cloud infrastructure. Then after that, we can see the infrastructure as a service from Amazon. Then Amazon Web Services, reasons and availability. There are availability zones are there. Availability zones for Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services introduced in 2012. So we can see some of the like services that they are introduced in 2012. Instances and attribute and cost of the instances. So these all topics we can discuss in the today's lecture. Existing cloud infrastructure. So as I told you, Amazon introduced a computing platform that has changed the face of computing in the last decade. First, it installed a powerful computing infrastructure to sustain its core businesses, e-commerce, selling a variety of goods ranging from books to food and home applications. So home appliances. So here we have the like services like Amazon that I have told you. Amazon, it is a pioneer in infrastructure as a service. Then second, that is Google. Its efforts are focused on a software as a service as well as platform as a service. Then third one, that is Microsoft. Microsoft is involved in platform as a service. So apart from this, we have the private clouds as well. So private clouds are an alternative to public clouds. So these clouds are open source. Okay, we don't need to pay for that. So open source cloud computing platform such as Eucalyptus, Open Nebula, Nimbus, OpenStack. So these all are the open source cloud computing platforms. This can be used as a control infrastructure for the private cloud. So in mid of 2000, Amazon introduced Amazon Web Services that is based on the infrastructure as a service that is a delivery model. So we can see in detail about the Amazon Web Services. As I told you, in 2000, Amazon introduced the Amazon Web Services based on the infrastructure as a service delivery model. So here in 2012, it reported business in 200 countries. 200 countries used the AWS. So AWS become more popular. A significant number of large corporations as well as startups take advantages of cloud computing services supported by the AWS infrastructure. So AWS plays very important role. This infrastructure, which consists of compute, storage servers, interconnected high-speed networks. Of course, we require high-speed networks, and it supports a set of services, so which is required for the many applications. So most of them they used the Amazon Web Service. An application developer. So here the designer or a developer, once he develops an application, he installs applications on a platform of his or her choice. After installing the applications, he manages resources allocated by the Amazon. So whatever the resources that is allocated by the Amazon, those resources are managed by the application developer. So here we have some of the examples of the uh, Amazon Web Services. So those examples are like Amazon Web Service Management Console, then second one Elastic Cloud Computing, then third Simple Queuing Services, then fourth Simple Storage Services, SimpleDB, Elastic Block Storage, then CloudWatch, Auto Scaling, then Virtual Private Cloud. So these web services we can see in detail in the further slide. So as of now, we can see so how each web services that works. So before we move to that, okay, you can see a pictorial representation here. So this illustrate it is a services offered by Amazon Web Service are accessible from the AWS Management Console. So here we have the AWS Management Console. So AWS Management Console, it is responsible for, it is an application running under a variety of operating systems, can be launched using the EC2. EC2 is nothing but what? EC2 is a Elastic Cloud Computing. So we have the EC2 as well here. Okay, so what is the role of the EC2? What it does, it allows user to launch a variety of operating systems. So we have the variety of operating systems here, that is Linux we have, Debian we have, Fedora, OpenSolaris, OpenSUSE, Red Hat, Ubuntu, Windows, Linux. Okay, so these all are what? These all are variety of operating systems. Then we have SQS. Okay, so what is the role of the SQS here? SQS is what? Simple queue services. So what it does, simple queue services, it allows multiple EC2, it allows multiple EC2 instances to communicate with one another. So you can look at the diagram. So here we have the, this is one EC2, this is another VC2 EC2. So these two EC2 communicate with one another with the help of SQS, that is simple queue service. Then the next web service, that is simple storage service, S3, SimpleDB, Elastic. So you can just look at here, S3 we have EBS and SimpleDB. So what it does, these are the storage services. These are our storage services. So next we have virtual private cloud. Okay, so sorry, next we have CloudWatch. CloudWatch, what it does, just look at here. This is a CloudWatch. The role of the CloudWatch, that is here it supports and support the performance monitoring. CloudWatch, it supports the performance monitoring. The next one is auto scaling. So auto scaling, we have auto scaling here. So this auto scaling, that is used for supports elastic resource management. It supports elastic resource management. Then the last one, virtual private cloud. So virtual private cloud, here we have the virtual private cloud. The role of the virtual private cloud is it allows direct migration of parallel applications. So which migrate the parallel application. So these all are example of the Amazon Web Services. So this is a pictorial representation where AWS Management Console, which runs the application under a variety of operating system. So this we have gone through. Then next we have the detailed about web services. That is, the first one is EC2. So EC2 is nothing but that is Elastic Cloud Computing. So Elastic Cloud Computing, so this is a web service. What it does? This is a web service for launching instances. Remember this, EC2, that is Elastic Cloud Computing, is a web service. This is used for launching the instances of an application under several operating systems. The operating systems here can be Linux, Microsoft Windows Server 2003 and 2008, OpenSolaris, FreeBSD, and NetBSD. So these all are several operating systems where the web services for launching the instances done by the EC2. Here a user can, okay, first it has to load an EC2 instances with custom application environment. After instances loading, then it has to manage the network access network access permissions. So there is a read write permissions are there. So those network access permission need to be managed by the user. After managing the network access permissions, then run the image using as many of few systems as desired. So finally, the user has to run the image. So this is about elastic cloud computing. We can see more about the elastic cloud computing. So what it does, we have the VM import. Okay, the role of the VM import is which import virtual machine images from the user environment to an instance through the VM import. So EC2 instances boot from AMI. AMI is nothing but Amazon Machine Image. So it is digitally signed and it is stored in S3. So S3 we can see in detail in the next slide. So here users can access images that is provided by the Amazon. So Amazon is going to provide the resources. So these images will be provided by Amazon only. Customize an image and store it in S3. So whatever the images or data that we are going to store it in S3. Okay. Next, an EC2 instance is characterized by the resources it provides. So which provides virtual computers, that is we call it as a VC. It is a virtual systems running the instances. The next instance, that is compute units. The compute units which measure the computing power of each system. Then it has memory, then IO capability. So these all are EC2 instances that is characterized by the resources that provides. So this is all about EC2. So next we'll have the next Amazon Web Service, that is S3. So here S3, that is simple storage system. So simple storage system. So simple storage system, what it does, these all are the services designed to store. Okay, so the main purpose of S3 is to store the large objects. An application can handle an unlimited number of objects, the ranging from the sizes, the storage sizes, that is 1 byte to 5 terabyte. So this is the range of the storage with S3. That is simple, though it is simple storage system, it can store from 1 byte to 5 terabyte. An object is stored in a bucket. Remember, the object is always stored in a bucket and retrieved via unique developer assigned key. So this is for the authentication purpose. A bucket can be stored in a region selected by the user, because whenever user needs that object or data, he can easily fetch that information. It supports a minimal set of functions, the functions like write, read, and delete. So these are the basic functions that is supported by the S3. It does not support primitive to copy, to rename, or to move an object from one bucket to another. So it doesn't have permission to copy, rename, move from one bucket to another. But it has the minimal functionality, that is write, read, and delete. The object names are global. So whatever the object's name, we are going to give it to the object that must be global. So S3, which maintains for each object. S3 is maintains for the each object. So this is all about the simple storage system. Next we'll have continuation part of the S3, that is authentication mechanism. So authentication mechanism means it provides the security for the data which we have stored. So S3, it computes MD5 of every object written and returns it in a file called E tag. Okay, so after computing it is going to return into the file called ETAG. A user is expected to compute the MD5 of an object stored and written and compare this with the ETAG. If the two values do not match, then the object was corrupted during transmission or storage. So when it do not match each other, then we can come to the conclusion that the object that was corrupted during the transmission or during the process of storage. So this is all about the S3. Next we have elastic block store. So elastic block store. So elastic block store, which provides a persistent block level storage volumes for use with EC2 instances. So EC2 instances that we have seen in the previous slide, how elastic block store that works. Here, elastic block store, a volume appears to an application as raw, unformatted, and reliable physical disk. The range for this is 1 GB to 1 TB. The previous it was like 1 byte to 5 terabyte, right? So here it has the range for the storage 1 GB to 1 TB. And EC2 instances may mount multiple volumes. So here we are telling the differences between EC2 and EBS. So EC2, it may mount multiple volumes, but a volume cannot be shared among multiple instances. Remember this, a volume cannot be shared among multiple instances, but EBS, it supports the creation of snapshots of the volumes attached to an instance and then uses them to restart the instances. So this is one of the advantages with respect to the EC2. The volumes are grouped together in availability zones. So what is availability zone, that we can see later with the help of a diagram, and are automatically replicated in each zone. How the replication is going to take place, that can also be seen in the later part. The next is SimpleDB. So we have the SimpleDB here. So how SimpleDB that works? A SimpleDB, it is a non-relational data. Okay, what is this? SimpleDB, it is a non-relational data store. So that allows a developers to store and query data items via web service request. Though it is non-relational data store, so it allows the developer to store and query data items via web services request. So it supports store and query functions traditionally provided by only relational databases. Okay, so SimpleDB, it also supports high performance web applications. So SimpleDB support high performance web applications. So high performance web applications, like it automatically manages the infrastructure, provisioning, hardware and software maintenance, the replication and indexing of the data items, and performance tuning. So here it manages automatically, that is infrastructure it manages, and it manages hardware and software, it manages replication, indexing of data items, and performance tuning. So this is all done by the SimpleDB. Next we'll have SQS. So SQS, it is a hosted message queue. So what do you mean by SQS? It is a hosted message queue. So what it does, SQS is a system for supporting automated workflows. Okay, it supported the automated workflows. It means that it allows multiple Amazon EC2 instances to coordinate their activities by sending and receiving the SQS messages. So how SQS support automated workflow means by coordinating their activities by sending and receiving the SQS messages. So here the applications using SQS can run independently. So simple queue services, it run independently and asynchronously and do not need to be developed with the same technologies. So though it is independent and asynchronous, it is not need to be developed with the same technology. A received message is locked. As I told you, sending and receiving messages, that is going to take place for supporting the automated workflow. So here a received message is locked during processing. If processing fails, the lock expires. Suppose the processing fails, this lock will be expires and the message is available again. Okay, so next is queue sharing can be restricted by IP addresses and a time of day. So this is all about simple queue service. The next we have CloudWatch. So CloudWatch, it is a monitoring infrastructure. What is this? It is a cloud monitoring infrastructure. This infrastructure is used by application developers, users, and system administrators to collect and track metrics importance for optimizing the performance of applications and for increasing the efficiency of the resource utilization. So this is how the CloudWatch works. Here, without installing any software, a user can monitor either 7 or 8 pre-selected metrics and then view graphs and statistics for these metrics. When launched in an Amazon machine image, the user can start the CloudWatch and specify the type of monitoring. There are mainly two types of monitoring are there. The first one is basic monitoring and the second one is detailed monitoring. So what do you mean by basic monitoring? It is a free of charge and it collects data at 5-minute intervals for up to 7 metrics. So this is basic monitoring. Then detailed monitoring is subject to charge, which collects the data at 1-minute interval. So it collects the data at 1-minute interval. So this is all about the CloudWatch. So next we'll have AWS Services introduced in 2012. So there some of the services that is introduced by the AWS. I have listed few here. The first one is Route 53. So this is the first AWS service that is introduced in 2012. So Route 53, it is a low latency DNS service used to manage users' DNS public records. So what Route 53 does, it is a low latency DNS service used to manage users' DNS public records. The next we have the Elastic Map Reduce, that is EMR. So EMR is a service supporting processing of large amount of data using a hosted Hadoop running on EC2. Hadoop, it's a tool. Okay, so it's a tool which is related to the database, and based on the map reduce paradigm, it works. So this is about the Elastic Map Reduce, that is we call it as a EMR. Then third one is Simple Workflow Service. So that is SWF. Simple Workflow Service, which supports workflows management and allows scheduling, management of dependencies, and coordination of multiple EC2 instances. The next we have Elastic Cache. So Elastic Cache is a service enabling web applications to retrieve data from managed in-memory caching system rather than a much slower disk-based database. So Elastic Cache is what? It's a service enabling web applications. Okay, so which retrieve data from the managed in-memory caching system rather than the slower disk-based database. Next we'll have DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is a schedule and low latency, full managed by NoSQL database service. So it is managed by NoSQL database. NoSQL database. Next we'll have CloudFront. CloudFront is a web service for content delivery. This is used for the content delivery. The next we'll have Elastic Load Balancer. So Elastic Load Balancer, it is a cloud service to automatically distribute the incoming request across multiple instances of the applications. So here, next we'll have Elastic Benchstock and Cloud Formation. So Elastic Benchstock, it is automatically handles the deployment, capacity provisioning, load balancing, auto scaling, and application monitoring functions. So this is all about the Elastic Benchstock. Then Cloud Formation. So Cloud Formation, which allows the creation of the stack describing the infrastructure for an application. So what cloud formation does? The cloud formation, it allows the creation of a stack describing the infrastructure for an application. So these all are what AWS services that is introduced in 2012 by AWS. We have few information about the Elastic Benchstock, though we have gone through in the previous slide. As I told you, which handles automatically the deployment, capacity provisioning, load balancing, auto scaling, and monitoring functions. Okay, so it also interact with the other services including EC2, S3, SNS, Elastic Load Balance, and auto scaling. The management functions provided by the services are, okay, these are very important. So these are the management function which is going to provided by the Elastic Benchstock. The first one is, it has to deploy a new application version. Deployment is going to take place here. Then after deploying, access to the results reported by CloudWatch monitoring service. Then email notifications when application status changes or application servers are added or removed. So whenever the applications are added or removed, okay, should get email notification about that. The next we'll have access to the server log files. So without needing to log into the application servers. So the servers is available using, so they use the programming languages, that is a Java platform, the PHP server side description language, or they can also use the .NET platform. So this is a brief about Elastic Benchstock. So next we'll have AWS Reasons and Availability Zone. I was talking about AWS Reasons and Availability Zone. So here we have Amazon data centers are located in several regions. So we have the regions here. These are the regions, several regions. In each region, there are multiple availability zones. So we have the availability zone with respect to each region. The billing rates differ from one region to another and can be roughly grouped into 4 categories. So the 4 categories, that is cost is low, high, medium, and very high. So these are the 4 categories we have roughly grouped into 4 categories. So here you can just look at, as I told you, each region there are several availability zones are there. Okay, with respect to each region, an availability zone is a data center. Okay, what is this availability zone? It is a data center consisting of a large number of servers. So regions do not share resources and communicate through the internet. Okay, regions just communicate through the internet. So this is like AWS regions and availability zones. As I told you, it is roughly grouped into 4 categories. So we have some of the regions with the geographical regions. I'll just show you. So this green color star indicates that the low cost region. So US East, okay, US West. So these are the low cost. You can just go back. Okay, US West and US East. These are what? Low cost. Okay. So next, similarly for medium cost, high cost, very high cost. Very high cost, we have South America region. So South America region will have high cost. Just look at here, South America, the cost is very high. Okay. So that as I already told, the billing rate that differs from one region to another and can be roughly grouped into like 4 categories. So this is all about the AWS regions. The next we'll have that is the configuration of the availability zone supporting AWS services. So here we have the cloud interconnect support high-speed communication among compute and storage servers in the zone. So here it also supports the communication with servers in other availability zone and with cloud users via the network address translation. So we have used NAT here. Okay. So NAT is nothing but a network address translation. So what it does, NAT, it maps the external IP address to the internal one. So this is the role of the NAT. So here we have the this particular diagram which indicates in this AWS storage servers are there. Okay, just look at below diagram here. So AWS storage servers, that is S3 EBS SimpleDB. So what is S3 EBS SimpleDB? Already we have gone through in the previous slide. Still, I just give the brief introduction about S3. It is storage is automatically replicated within a region. So S3 buckets are replicated within an availability zone. So this is a availability zone. S3 it replicate within a availability zone and between the availability zones of a region. So within and between it is going to replicate. Whereas EBS volumes are replicated only within the same availability zone. EBS it replicate only within the same availability zone. So next we have a user. Here what happens, a user can request a virtual servers and storage located in one of the regions. The user can also request virtual servers in one of the availability zones of the region. So we have EC2 as well here. So EC2 instances, Elastic Cloud Computing that we have gone through. So the Elastic Cloud Compute service allows a user to interact and to manage the virtual server. So it manages the virtual server by interacting with them. Next, we have the billing rates in each region are determined by the components of the operating cost, including energy, communication, and maintenance cost. So here we have this cloud interconnect. So it is connecting to the internet and other computing server via NAT. So we have the server running on AWS services. We have already gone through what is SQS, what is CloudWatch, CloudFront, Elastic Cage, CloudFormation, Elastic Benchstock, Elastic Load Balancer, AWS Management Console. Okay, so this is all about the how each cloud interconnect allows all systems in an availability zone to communicate with one another and with the systems in other availability zones of the same region. Next we'll have AWS instances. So here AWS instances, it is the user chooses a region and the availability zone where this virtual server should be placed and selects from a limited menu of the instance type. So which contains an instance of a virtual server. So normally user chooses the it chooses CPU cycle, main memory, secondary storage, communication, IO bandwidth that is needed by the applications. So when launched, an instance is provided with the DNS name, that is the name that maps to the two things, that is private IP address and public IP address. So what is this private IP address does? So private IP address for internal communication within the internal EC2 communication network. So whereas public IP address for communication outside the internal Amazon network. For outside the Amazon internal network, we use the public IP address. So within internal, we can use the private IP address. So the network address translation, as I told you, which maps the external IP address to the internal one. So this is all about the AWS instances. So this is a continuation part of AWS instances, that is a public IP address is assigned for the lifetime of instances. though it is used for the external, so it is assigned for the lifetime of an instance. Next, we have an instances can request an elastic IP address. So elastic IP address means elastic IP address we have gone through. It requests elastic IP address rather than a public IP address because the elastic IP address is a static public IP address. It is allocated to an instance from the available pool of the availability zone. So we have seen many availability zone in the previous slide. Okay, so an elastic IP address is not released when the instance is stopped or terminated. Okay, here an elastic IP address is not released when the instance is stopped or terminated, and it must be released when no longer needed. So when no longer needed, then only it has to terminate. So these all are the instance type. Okay, there are 4 instance type are there. Standard instance, high memory instance, high CPU instance, and cluster computing. So just look at the table here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 standard instances are there. STDM. M is nothing but a micro. Okay, and STDS is there. S is nothing but a small, and STDL. L is nothing but large. STD like XL. XL means extra large. So this is the instance name. Okay, so next we have the high memory instances. There are like high memory extra large instances. This is high memory extra large, and again we have the high memory double extra large. 2XL means double extra large. Then next we have the high memory quadruple extra large, that is 4. We call it as a quadruple extra large. Then next we have a CPU XL. CPU means what? The third one. Okay, CPU instances. So what is this? That is high CPU extra large. What is this? High CPU extra large. Then fourth one, the last one, we have cluster computing. So that is CL4XL means cluster computing quadruple extra large. 4 is nothing but quadruple. Okay, so quadruple extra large. So these are the instance type. So instance cost is there. Okay, so what is this instance cost? Here the charges that they have mentioned here is in the dollar. Okay, for 1 hour of Amazon's cloud services running under Linux, or it can be Unix operating system, and under Microsoft Windows for several EC2 instances. So these are the instance type. Already we have gone through what is the standard micro, small, large, extra large. Okay, these are the instances are there. For that, okay, we have the cost. So cost is very less. Okay, compared to other web services, Amazon cost is very less. So this is all about the instance cost. Hope you have understood this. So thank you so much for the patience listening. If you like the video, please share the video and subscribe the channel. Thank you.